देखिए, जब दिल्ली हाई कोर्ट का जजमेंट आया था तो जब उसको निरपराध घोषित किया था तब हम लोगों ने इसका स्वागत तो नहीं किया था, परंतु ये कहा था कि हमको कोई इसमें विरोध नहीं है। मैं अपनी ओर से और चर्च की तरफ से यही कहना चाहूँगा कि वास्तव में इसे अपराध नहीं माना जाना चाहिए, परंतु जजमेंट हम लोगों ने अभी पढ़ा नहीं है और वास्तव में जो हमारे महामान्यवर जस्टिस लोग हैं उन लोगों ने किन तर्कों को लेकर इस बात का जजमेंट दिया है, तो एक तरह से हमारे लिए ठीक ही है कि क्योंकि हमको ये डर था पहले भी कि इससे एक तो HIV एड्स के जो केस हैं वो बढ़ेंगे और जो सरकार ये लोगों के अंदर स्वतंत्रता मिल जाएगी तो इस प्रकार के अपराध और बढ़ेंगे। और हम तो ये सदा कहते आए हैं कि चर्च इसका सदा विरोध करता रहा है, मतलब कि जो समलैंगिक संबंध हैं वो हम हमेशा इसके विरुद्ध रहे हैं, परंतु हम उनको क्रिमिनल्स या अपराधी नहीं मानते हैं। Well, the Supreme Court has now finally given its judgment, and to many people it will come as a surprise that the Supreme Court has held it as a crime. See, even when the Delhi High Court had given its judgment, though we had not welcomed it, we had said that we have no objection because we did not want to consider these people as criminals. But now if the Supreme Court has given a judgment, I have not read the judgment and I do not know what exactly are the reasons why the Supreme Court has rejected it. But I am sure the honorable justices in their own judgment have considered both sides, pro and cons, and they have come to a conclusion that it is a crime. So as far as the church is concerned, we have always said that homosexual relationships, particularly engaging in sexual activity, is wrong. And that stands as it is. But of course, we do not want to consider them as criminals. But if Supreme Court has said that, we respect the judgment of the Supreme Court.
All right, let me give a quick clarification to what Father Emmanuel was saying there. Remember, even when the 2009 verdict came out from the High Court, non-consensual sex was still a criminal act. So it's not as if somebody can be forced into that act. They would be held accountable. Let me go across to PDT Achari. He's a constitutional expert. So I'd like to understand from you that the IPC section, of watering down of that section, can it only be done by the government or parliament, as the Supreme Court has indicated today, by putting the onus back on them?
Actually, it is the responsibility of parliament to change any law. It is within the domain of parliament. Certainly, the Supreme Court's decision is quite right in that respect. Supreme Court has said that if the parliament wants to change the law, it can change it. That is precisely what the judiciary, that is precisely where the judiciary stands and should stand. The Supreme Court has actually recognized the well-defined division of powers among the different organs. And that is what I have to say about this particular judgment. Although I have not gone into details of this, but from what appears on the channel, Supreme Court has...
Mr. PDT Achari, are you there with us?
Yeah.
All right. Sir, one more question I'd like to ask from you. The court has also said that IPC 377 is a constitutionally valid provision of the law. Now, when it says that, what is it indicating to the government that had given an affidavit to the court saying that the Indian society before the colonial era did not discriminate against gays?
Actually, you know, it simply means that the law that exists is constitutionally valid, and that is the opinion of the Supreme Court. And then the Supreme Court has also said that if the Parliament wants to change the law, it can do so. Well, that is how it is, because it is the domain of Parliament to change the law. If the Parliament thinks that this particular act or this is criminal, or if the Parliament wants to change the law, it can do so. I mean, it's a correct stand taken by the Supreme Court as far as I am concerned.
All right. Sir, but what I'd also like to know from you is that even if Parliament changes the law, even then the Supreme Court has the right to view the validity of that law. Now, if it already has a notion that 377 is constitutionally valid, why would it then agree with a watered down version? Am I getting it right, sir?
Yeah. Actually, the point is the constitutionality of a law is decided by the judiciary. The responsibility or the duty of Parliament or the function of Parliament is to make law, and certainly the judiciary will look into the constitutionality of this. But then constitutionality of a law made by Parliament is decided on the basis of Keshwananda Bharati decision. If the law made by a Parliament or a constitutional amendment made by Parliament, if it hits the basic structure of the Constitution, then it will be invalid. Naturally, it will be invalid. And similarly, if the law goes against, infringes on any constitutional provision, naturally the Supreme Court will hold it invalid. That is it. But Parliament's function is basically to make law, and nobody can take away that function from Parliament. That is precisely what the Supreme Court has said in his judgment.
Sir, then going by this argument, should the High Court, the Delhi High Court that in 2009 had given a verdict on IPC 377, at the same time told the government to have a law with regards to this?
Well, the view of the judiciary, whether it is High Court or the Supreme Court, is expressed through its judgment. The decision that the court takes, the order that the court issues, and the other things are called obiter dicta, which is by way of or which is in the nature of an advice to the government. But the decision of the court is there in the operative part of the judgment. That is the thing. But the advice part, naturally, that in most of the judgments we have seen, the court makes this obiter dicta, which is meant for the authority, which is meant for the executive. And if the executive wants to follow it up, they can follow it up, and so on.